About a day ago, I walked you through the process I used to create unlimited coloring book patterns. I also mentioned that I would be creating a series of videos showing you how to package these patterns in a manuscript so that you can have it uploaded to KDP. Welcome to part 2, and if you haven't seen part 1, please click the link in the upper right hand corner of the screen or the link in the description box so that you can easily follow the process. Please pause this video and watch part 1 if you haven't seen it. This video will only make sense once you do. On that note, my name is Samantha, the Get It Done Girl. I share with you tips and tricks on how to make money online. I also explore tools and tech to help you become more productive and get stuff done. For this video, I will be using Affinity Publisher to set up my pattern coloring book. My trim size is going to be 8.5 by 11, and I'm going to have a bleed allotment. I will have 50 coloring pages in total, but as we all know by now, Amazon's paper quality is not the best, so I will add a page after each pattern to potentially avoid a bleed through situation. This would take me to 100 pages, but I'll also be including a front and copyright page to move the total to 102 pages. I am going to plug these numbers into my KDP print calculator to get the final dimension of my book. So let's head on over to my calculator and let's see what the results are. So the trim size of my book is 8.5 by 11 inches. The total number of pages, 102. I'm going to select the option manuscript with bleed since the patterns will run across the page. So the new length of my book is 11.25 and the width of my book is 8.625 inches. The bleed allotment is 0.125 inches and the gutter is 0.375 inches. But this will not really make a difference since everything will run across the page. So I'm going to go over to Affinity Publisher and I'm going to add in the numbers. The width is 8.625. The height is 11.25 inches. Deselect front facing pages, and I'm going to ensure that I have 102 pages to start things off. I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to add 0.125 inches for my bleed, and I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to create. So now that I have my pages, I'm going to go ahead and create 2 master pages. One master page is going to be hosting my coloring patterns and the other will be used as a bleed allotment. So master pages, I already have one, so I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this one. The first one, which is master A, I'm going to call my coloring pattern page. Okay, so what I'm going to do is to start designing my coloring pattern page so that it's easier for me to just upload and drag and drop each pattern when I get to that step. I am going to go ahead and activate or enable my bleed because, as I've mentioned before, my patterns will run across the screen. Now I'm also going to be creating a picture frame. This is the picture frame option and I'm just going to drag it across my page. just like this. The next thing I'm going to do is to change the properties of this picture frame, and I'm going to ensure that it scales to minimum fit. Done. I'm also going to change the fill, so I will have a visual, pretty much reminding me that this is where my frame is. So I like to add colors to it, just because I think it just helps me a lot more than if it did not have any color or just left as is. So I'm going to go ahead and change the fill, and these are my brand colors. I'm just going to put a pink. So this is pretty much all I will need to do for my coloring pattern page. I'm now going to go ahead and move to the bleed allotment. Now, some people leave this as is blank page, some people add black to it, but I like to take things a bit further. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a rectangle. I'm going to change the color of this rectangle to black, but I'm also going to write, let's say for example, if my brand's name was Samantha Boris, or if that's the name I publish under, I would simply have it written on this page. So let's put Samantha Boris. I'm going to change this to white. I'm also going to increase the font. I'm also going to change the font because I have my preferences. So I'm going to add this at the very top, and I'm going to change its opacity so it's not so outstanding. I'm also going to just drag this to the bottom. I'm also going to drag this and position it to the side. You can do whatever you want with this, but this is how I prefer to do it. You can get creative, as creative as you want to get. So I'm just going to leave this as is. I'm going to reduce the opacity. And there it is. Like I've mentioned, you can do whatever you want to do with this page. If you want to leave it black, by all means, go ahead and do it. So now I'm going to move on to the next step. Let me save this. As you can see, the picture frame has been applied to all of my pages, but this is not what I want. So what I'm going to do is apply, as I said before, I will be having two pages, one as a front page and the other as a copyright page. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to clear the masters from page 1, and I'm also going to clear the masters from page 2, because these two pages will receive text. So the front page, the first page would be my front page, and I might have a slot where the owner is able to add their name to the coloring book, and page 2 is going to be the copyright page. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to indicate that this is the page. And I'm going to change the color, increase the font. So this should be your copyright page, and this should be the page where you give the person some space to be creative in terms of adding their name or showing ownership, pretty much. So what I'm going to do, all right, so I'm going to rewind, because I think if I do things this way, I am going to run into problems. So I'm just going to undo, and then you'll see why I'm undoing. Oops. All right, so I'm going to leave the masters applied to this, but what I'm going to do is to first apply the bleed allotment pages. So I'm going to apply the bleed allotment pages and also the coloring pattern pages. So as I've mentioned, this is my front page, copyright, and this is where the coloring pages would start. So I'm going to ensure that my coloring pages are applied to odd pages. So let's go ahead and do so. Apply master. So to the coloring page, pattern page. This is the master. I'm going to apply it to add pages. So it would actually start at 1, 3, 5, 7, etc. And eventually you'll see why it is going to be done this way. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. The next thing I'm going to do is to go back. I'm going to apply master again, but this time to the bleed allotment, and it's going to be applied to even pages. So 2, 4, 6, 8, that sort of thing. Okay. And as you can see, my pages have changed. So what I'm going to do is to clear masters on the first and second pages. So this is going to be my copyright. And this is the page I'm going to use to add my names, or my name option. So my coloring book will ideally start at page 3. And then this is the page that's going to be behind it, the bleed allotment. And if I should go down further, you'd realize this is how the page is laid out. So the next step is where I start adding my patterns. And this is where things get interesting, because you'll be able to see everything come together. So I'm going to go ahead. I could use the place option that is here. Let's use this option. And these are my coloring patterns. I have, I think it's about 10 patterns. So I'm going to select everything and I'm just going to open them. I find this easier to do because I really don't want to go back and forth with adding images, because that in itself can be time consuming. So the beauty about using the picture frame option is that it automatically receives the pictures, and you'll see. So I'm going to add my first one here. I'm going to move down to the second pattern page, and I'm just going to keep adding my patterns. We are going to come back to the editing process later, so don't worry about it. The aim is to just get all the patterns on the page, and you know, I find this to be more organized, and there's a lot of mental clarity because you're not switching from one activity to the next and then going back to the other activity. You're just doing everything all at once, so focus is good here. So this is my last pattern. So I'm going to go to pages, and I'm just going to go back to my very first pattern, and this is what it looks like. So I'm going to click the picture frame, and at the bottom I'm just going to increase its percentage. So I'm going to drag this forward, and as you can see, the percentage is being increased. So ideally I'm going to keep these images at the same percentage. So this is at 150. I'm going to increase it so that it covers the page, and sometimes if you want to, you can increase the percentage. So that's what I'm doing. And if you thought 270 was not clear enough, you could go back, click again, and you could also add more to it. So this is at 343.4%. This is absolutely beautiful. So this is 343. So I'm just going to go down and I'm going to do the same for all my pictures. So it's 343%. And I mean, you don't have to standardize everything. If this looks good as is, you can leave it as is. So if you find that bringing it to 343 is going to be too large, then you can leave it as is. So this is 340 and this is okay as is. I'm going to scroll down and do the same. And yes guys, the Adobe Capture tool I shared with you in part 1 did all of my patterns, I kid you not. You can, the best thing about this is you can also change the direction of the pattern. So you can slant it a bit, or you can leave it straight. Sometimes you just have to fool around with it. I like this, so I'm going to just enlarge it a bit. I like 400, so I'm going to leave this at 400. Like I said, you can make it whatever you want it. This is at 350, and I'm going to leave this as is. Now, just on a side note, some people choose to, well, they prefer to have the option where they can cut out their coloring pattern. So if you want to take that into consideration, ensure that you create, for example, you bring the frame a bit away from the margin, and as you can see, this is taken away from the margin. So all you would have to do is you could give this a stroke. This is just me sharing something on the side. You could give this a stroke. So if someone wanted the option to cut out this page, as I've mentioned before, Amazon has paper quality issues. So if you wanted them to be able to cut out, you could simply do it as is. But I'm going to undo and just leave everything standardized. As I've mentioned, this is just me showing you how to package everything. You can make it however you're comfortable with, or based on what you know people want to see. So I'm going to continue with my next pattern. I'm going to pull it. I like this as is. The same for this one. And guys, you find that once you have your patterns done, it's pretty much easy to publish coloring books on Rapid. And as you've noted, the quality is really good. The quality is, it's amazing. So I'm going to keep up until it's all done. I'm just using 10 patterns for this demonstration, but I will not be adding all 50 patterns. That's too much. And I think I'd like this slanted. Yep. I absolutely love this. I think I have this image twice, but you get the deal. This won't be published. This is just to show you. And that is it. As I've mentioned, the bleed allotment page, you can do whatever you want to do with it. So let's say, for example, I wanted to give people, or not to really give people, because there's not much they're going to be able to do with this. But let's say, for example, I want this to look more appealing or attractive. I could come back to place, and I could just place a random pattern here, and all I'd need to do is to just change the color of the pattern. So I would just change, oops, undo, copy everything, and change the pattern to white. Now, when it is shown on the black backdrop, this is what it would actually look like. This looks absolutely amazing. So what you could do is also decrease the opacity. So, you know, this is a better option. If you don't want to add the name of your pen name, you could simply do it like this. I think this is more refined. This is a better option. Now let's work on my front page. Usually all I do is to add a pattern here, and I'm going to show you exactly how I do this. Just add any pattern, preferably something that's probably not in the book, or it really doesn't matter. Add a pattern, and then there's going to be a box going across the screen. Oh, I think this was applied behind. So I'm going to apply it forward. Arrange, move to the front. So this book belongs to, let me change the font. I absolutely love this font. This book belongs to, let's change the color again. And this is going to be a white. Change the stroke to a black. And I'm going to draw 2 lines. And there you have it. This is pretty much what the gist of my front page. I mean, you can set it up how you want it, but this is pretty much something that I would do. And this is going to be copyright page, so add your copyright. So there you have it, guys. That's it for this video. Like I've mentioned, I will not be adding all the patterns because that is time consuming. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to export this, and I'm going to give you a chance to see what it looks like. PDF 300, include bleed, export. And this might take a while. So I'm going to go off camera and wait for it to export. See you soon. All right, so this is what the interior of my book looks like. I am going to zoom in so that you can, look at these patterns more closely. And as you can see, the quality is really, really good. This is something I would definitely buy. I absolutely love patterns, not just seeing them on clothes, but I love patterns overall. So guys, if you found this video valuable, please, please, please subscribe to my channel. That would be greatly appreciated. Also, please watch this space, because in the next video, I'm going to share with you how you can take things up a notch and add more elements to your patterns. So I'm going to share with you how you can really be creative if you don't just want to add patterns to the page. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.